Many would consider it a fair question if you were to ask, why do I think the Carolina Panthers defense is going to be better next year? And not only why do I think it, but why do I guarantee it? Well, folks, let's jump right in.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome into another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Hope you guys are doing well out there. We're here today to chop it up and talk about defense. Today's episode is a little bit different than most episodes. You guys know I love to throw up graphics. I try to give you guys content to make it easier to digest. Today, we're just going to look at a simple spreadsheet, but there's value within this spreadsheet, and it's part of the reason that I feel confident about the Carolina Panthers heading into this season. There's a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, doubts. Do we really think the Carolina Panthers are going to go from what we would consider the worst defense in the league, worst in franchise history? Do we think they can make the turn? And I do. And I've been one of those folks that was hard on them last year. There were multiple things that played into why the Carolina Panthers didn't succeed, whether it was talent deficiency, whether it was injuries that popped up, possibly some of it with coaching and scheme. We've seen all of these things addressed, but I think most importantly, it's taking a look at the starting lineup that the Carolina Panthers put forth and the number of changes. So I went back to look at the starting lineup for every week at the Carolina Panthers last season. One, let's be honest, with the lineup itself that's out here that we're going to look through, that by itself, not good. Like, let's be real. There's a reason that the Carolina Panthers invested so heavily in the defensive line, that they pick guys up through the draft. There is a reason that has been the focus. Yes, stopping the run, getting pressure. But when you look at the talent that's out there and what was out there late in the season, even some of it in the secondary, you begin to understand why. And I actually went back to, and I did not get to dissect and put all this into one episode for you guys, but I was looking back over the last, I think we did 20 years to analyze teams that finished last in points allowed. How did they finish the next season? And in most instances, we saw significant improvement, 10 spots above what they finished the previous year. It's kind of the average. Now, there was one case, the Detroit Lions of the early middle 2000s, where they were completely bad 2 years in a row. Detroit Lions used to be a very bad football team, so they're kind of the outlier. The only thing that may get you a little bit down if you're a Carolina Panthers fan is that over this span of 20-ish years, and sorry I can't quote exactly because I did the research, I left it to the side. I just what I do, I think of ideas, I research it, and then I may make an episode, I may not, I may pull in bits and pieces of it. But when we looked back over that period of time, let's say roughly 15 to 20 years, there were only 3 instances where a team that finished last in points allowed made the playoffs the next year. I think the Washington Commanders this past year and the Houston Texans are the most recent examples. The only other outlier was like an 8-8 team from the mid 2010s-ish, somewhere in that range. So only about 3 instances. So even improving your defense doesn't necessarily mean that things are automatically going to get better. But I think if you're a Panthers fan, you should feel optimistic because we saw a lot of positive on offense. We saw Bryce Young turn the corner, and then we've seen what they've invested through the draft this year, getting a running back, getting a tight end, of course, getting Tetero McMillan, getting Dowdle through free agency, keeping the offensive line intact. And so when you add all of those things together, you start to feel a little bit better, just a little bit. And like, folks, that follow me know how real I'm going to be. I've got to kind of, be realistic with myself, be realistic with you guys. I'm not out here trying to say they're going to go out and win 10, 11 games, but I do think a middle of the pack defense, which is kind of the measurement that I'm looking for, should get us there. And I feel confident, barring something wild like we saw last year, that the Panthers are going to be able to field a formidable defense. Now, the pressure itself relies on the shoulders of Ejiro Evero. He is the one calling the plays. He's the one leading the ship. He's the one trying to navigate some uncertainty on his side. Quite a few coaching changes. I think 3 or 4 coaching changes on the defensive side of the ball. So you have new staff injected there. And way back when all this happened, I initially said, well, who cares about new additions on the coaching staff? And then I remember how bad the offensive line was 2 years ago, and you inject Dave Canales and his scheme and his guys, and suddenly there's a big improvement. I mean, you almost dropped your sack number in half. So I have a little bit of optimism when it comes to that as well, and I do have belief that maybe this coaching change could have a significant impact on this team moving forward. Now, the biggest thing is we're going to have football players out there. Like I said, barring some crazy injuries or, knock on wood, you throw in Derrick Brown into the middle of this team on the defensive front. You have a healthy J.C. Horn. That's a good recipe for success. Now, when we talk about the positions and where we've strengthened across the entire front seven, yes. Where I have concern still is in the linebacking room, the core that's there. But I do think we've done enough to put us in position to be much better than we were. But enough talking around it. Let's get into it. Let's look at the starting lineups from every game last year and talk you guys through this. I'm going to try to share it. There we go. Full screen. Make it a little bit easier for you guys. So you unfortunately or maybe fortunately won't see my face here. So week 1, that was your full starting lineup. You had everybody. A'Shawn Robinson, Shy Tuttle, Derrick Brown. I mean, just looking at this, you think about Shy Tuttle in a rotational role this year. Derrick Brown, we know, will be healthier. So I'm saying that as like Shy Tuttle was your starter last year, and he's going to be in a rotational side. DJ Johnson, got a lot of feelings about that. Shaq Thompson, Josie Jewell, Clowney, Horn, Mike Jackson, Jordan Fuller, and Xavier Woods. That was your starting lineup. We know about the terrible performance. I mean, the Panthers buried themselves deep. The following week, we, of course, have the injury, the news that comes out that Derrick Brown is injured. So to replace him, you move some things around. A'Shawn Robinson replaces him, and then you have LeBron Ray going on his left side or on the left side of the defense. That was the only change there. Still not a great performance. We go back and remember. And then, as if things can't get crazier, you change it up, going against the Raiders, traveling across the country. You inject Andy Dalton into the lineup. You also inject a few additional starters. So Thurman, how many people remember Nick Thurman on here? Or even Harris, who was here for a short little bit. That was your core group. And then outside of that, relative stability in the secondary and the other positions. We go, played the Bengals. The only difference there is Jordan Fuller gets replaced by Nick Scott. I mean, we just couldn't figure out who and what was going to help us in the secondary. And then the injuries start piling up after the Bengals. So we know Shaq Thompson goes out. He's down for the year. You have Trevin Wallace in the lineup and Claudin Cherilus. And we know Trevin Wallace got some playing time. But there's no doubt that Trevin Wallace was likely drafted to be a mentoree, to learn, to grow, to not be, thrown into the fire immediately. But it happened. And then you have Claudin Cherilus as well, who in, his second year last year, trying to figure it out, not necessarily a guy you want as your starting lineup. And so I do have a fear for that this season. I know they brought in Rose Boom from the Rams. I still wonder if the Carolina Panthers wish they had done more at the linebacking position. They're not done, no doubt about it, and they could be higher on Trevin Wallace than most of us. You move out to the following week against the Falcons. Not a lot of change. You do have DJ Johnson injected into the lineup because Clowney missed a little bit of time. That's another conversation is Clowney missing time, getting a little bit older. Curious to see what the Panthers decide to do with him. We got a whole nother video breaking that down. But then we get into, again, Thurman back in the rotation, Chandler Wooten at linebacker. Folks, we even got down to Marquise Haynes. That's how crazy it was. And that was a butt whooping against the Washington Commanders. I mean, drug on the floor. Marcus Mariota made us look silly. Thankfully, it was Marcus Mariota and not Jaden Daniels because they went to town. You have the Denver Broncos game. Bryce Young back against Damani Richardson thrown into the lineup. So that's your one change there. And then finally, the following week against the Giants, we see DJ Wonnum for the first time and Jordan Fuller. And therefore, about 2 to 3 weeks, relatively same lineup until we get late in the season. You throw Williams on the defensive front, DJ Johnson back in there, just moving guys around. Claudin Cherilus makes an appearance. Then we get really, really skinny, throwing in Wyndham. Clowney's back in. Damani Richardson's back in. They tried Jordan Fuller, Xavier Woods. They're just back and forth. The game against the Buccaneers, you had Williams, DJ Johnson, Wyndham, Wooten, Farley. Yes, remember Farley here for a very short amount of time. And then DJ Wonnum was really the only other change in the final week. But my gosh, that final game of the year against the Falcons, and we won. That's the thing that hopefully, if you are a Panthers fan, should make you feel a little bit confident too, is the fact that we won some of these games with this defense. With this poor performance, we were still able to get the job done. Still able to do it. So you should have a little bit of confidence. At least I hope you do. And that's why I think, maybe the Panthers are going to get this thing figured out this season. We're not ready to officially talk up win totals or anything like that, but we're getting there. As always, folks, appreciate you guys tuning in. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.